to speak to you today. I'm a researcher here in French and City Studies and a member of the Centre for Cultural Memory. I've been involved in workshops associated with the Optimal Cosmopolitan project, I think several years ago in January, and I work, my research concentrates principally on the Francophone Middle East, on Lebanon, and then increasingly looking out towards Syria and Palestine. And this paper here draws on work that I put together for a seminar at the ACLA in 2014 on the idea of the Transmediterranean passerelle, the idea of these bridges, which is hopefully going to be published with Liverpool University Press in a collection of essays that I'm working with Megan MacDonald. So I'm taking you from Beirut to Algiers through two pieces, two novels, and let's just see where we go with it. The quotes are in French, there's lots of them. I'm not quoting all of them, but we'll get through. Okay. So in this paper, I want to contrast representations of Algiers and Beirut by Assia Djebar, focusing on Femme d'Alger dans le appartement, which originally dates from 1979, in the collection of short stories of the same name, and Ethel Adnan's polyphonic civil war text, Six Marie Rose. Ethel Adnan was in London yesterday with Joanna Hadji-Thomas doing a presentation of their film on the city you're talking about. Yes, absolutely. They've made a film together because both of them have realised that they have a shared heritage from that part of the world, but have never actually made contact with it. So this is from her polyphonic Civil War text, Six Marie Rose, respectively. And this is in order to investigate the ways in which Mediterranean port city space is encoded and appropriated, and how in the act of writing in French, there is an attempt to perform and act against patriarchal tropes of tribalism, in the case of Lebanon, and colonialism. It is in particular notable how these texts engage with borders, bridges, coasts, the edges of public and domestic space, navigations between memory and history, the everyday and the exceptional. In particular, I want to consider the sense of trans-Mediterranean shuttling that might be evoked between these two cities and writers in their representations of women, violence, trauma, and its after effects. What does it mean to write, and indeed to write in the sense of to rectify, about these cities? If the fabulation of geography seems concerned with borders and divisions, edges and demarcation, writing as a recuperative act for women, and by them concerns aspects of visibility and invisibility, giving voice, being heard and not being heard. So a connection was drawn between these two Mediterranean cities. I've got it here actually. There was a colloquium in 2003 on Algiers, Beirut, capitale de la douleur, showing a platform then of violence and coming to terms with it. This is your first quote. Les villes ne sauraient penser la souffrance de l'enfantement du crime. The fracture and rupture of internecine conflict. Les familles libanaises ou algériennes se sont brisées de l'intérieur, the sense in which these families are broken from the inside. Algiers in the aftermath of the War of Independence and decolonialisation, and Beirut in the aftermath of prolonged and extensive civil conflict.
I didn't hear what it was.
Provide the setting for writers and writing, which, while situated firmly within and of the city space, depends upon a fictionalisation in order to express its elusive truth. So là, enfoui dans le pli de l'écriture d'aujourd'hui, vit sur le mode de la fiction, une vérité profonde et ancienne que nous devons aller chercher sous les décombres ou dans les grottes et les sous-sols. Writers, according to Marissa Bay, are those qui se glissent dans les interstices de l'histoire pour mettre en lumière des moments, des lieux, des faits réels pour imaginer et les donner à voir. And I suggest it's women's writing, moreover, that operates within these interstices, that explores the nooks and crannies of city space and of psychic operation. They are texts about finding place, giving voice, and making visible the scars of conflict, but also of oppression, and expressing anew, and with defiance, a desire to write their respective urban surroundings. Beirut, according to Michael Gilson, had become, quote, almost unimaginable, an icon of chaos, anarchy, meaninglessness, an image saturated in signs lacking all sense, a kind of grotesque unreality surpassing the imagination and language. Writing an account of the individual fragmentation of Cité Marie-Rose, Ethel Adnan confronts this account and works within a group of women writers who Miriam Cook has termed the Beirut decentrists. Their writing is understood through a lens of desiring social reconstruction through conscious survival, operating within, as does Djebar, to the splinters and shards of rupture, the city as wound, as palimpsest, where layers of violence expose traces of those before. These very fissures in the structures of Lebanese society give the utterly paradoxical possibility of a liberating place in which women writers were able to make of the chaos of the broken city space, appropriated literally, according to Miriam Cook, in, quote, a collective endeavour to express and thereby understand the reign of unreason. Djebar's project also seeks to reclaim the city for its women. Je souhaiterais qu'il soit comme une lampe sur ce seuil pour éclairer la solidarité de toute parole féminine, notre survie. Recasting the scene at the end of Femme d'Alger, when Anne and Sarah imagine what it would be like to contemplate the city when all the doors are open, quel tableau alors, jusque la lumière qui en tremblera. So I want to think now about the wreck, and the wreck of Beirut and the wreck of the city. Adnan's text is divided into temporal sections, as is the broader organisation of Djebar's collection. And these functions, these different times function like acts in a play, and there have been theatrical settings of Cité Marie-Rose. It lends itself to this staging. And it shifts perspective from character to character as they witness, perpetrate, and suffer the core action, which is the execution of Marie-Rose by phalangists for her treachery in supporting the Palestinian cause. This is witnessed by her pupils, the deaf-mute children she teaches at school. Adnan's text is temporally close to the violence. In Femme d'Alger, on the other hand, the atrocities of torture, violence, and conflict simmer below the surface, in passing references La Gégène, for example, the machine that was turned on to cover up the cries of tortured prisoners during the Algerian War of Independence. And in the reminiscences of Leila and Sarah. For Adnan, however, the city is a prominent figure both as a location for violence, but that participates in a series of bodily metaphors, both feminized and exploited as a prostitute, where the cement was mixed with the earth to suffocate the trees, where the violent events change the behaviour of inhabitants. A young couple make love on a veranda in full view in the afternoon, for example. The city is humiliated, like a dog with a tail between its legs, yet also insouciant. Elle a ramassé les us et les coutumes, les tares et les vengeances, la cupidité, la débauche du monde entier dans son propre ventre. It's this idea of ingesting all of that stuff. It's also an enclosed space with no exit, trapped between militia on the one hand and the sea on the other, in electromagnetic fields, a runaway train, a wreck grounded on its rocks. Adnan makes her own comparison, estimating that were one to weigh or measure suffering, Beirut is greater than Berlin, Saigon, Madrid, or Athens. Beirut était devenue petit à petit une immense plaie ouverte, an open wound of immense concentration of murders and sadism. A sexualized, brutal place out of all control, where meaning is recoded, subverted, and destroyed, understood best and most tragically in the danse macabre of the deaf-mute children at Marie-Rose's execution. Djibar's writing of the wreck of Algiers is voiced principally through the character of Sarah. Her perspective on the city is reflected through the prism of her memories of her participation in the Algerian War of Independence, of which she bears the scars, as well as in her friendship begun in childhood before the fighting with her French woman friend Anne. She is preoccupied with family matters, a missing stepson, but also in her work with documentary projects to record the music and streets of the city. She's a keen observer of the city space, of the rue étroite qui descend, qui monte, in particular the closed spaces reserved for women, witnessing a woman who at the same time each day dances on her patio. Elle songe aux femmes cloîtrées, prostitutes. She dreams of these closed women. Seulement dans une cuisine où elles de siège par terre écrasées de confinement. Concerned then to depict the spatial oppression women face in the city space, the complicity of women, especially les femmes libres de la ville, to contribute to their own oppression and those of their daughters is noted also. Elles pourront enfin fermer la porte et serrer le tour les jeunes filles pour les maintenir à l'abri entre les murs. Keeping these young women sheltered within these walls. And if Anne has no experience of la vie au cours de la période passée de feu et de meurtre, so Anne has no sense of the Algiers at war, Sarah's understanding is informed by the trade hopes of what liberation would bring, having fought against the colonial oppressors of the city. Ces murs, ces balcons, l'encre des prisons vides offers no freedom in spite of its lumière, the light being metonymic for freedom. Dans cette ville étrange, ivre de soleil, mais des prisons sonnent au chacun. Chaque femme vit-elle pour son propre compte, ou d'abord puis une chaîne de femmes autrefois enfermées, génération après génération, tandis que déversait la même lumière, un bleu immuable prenant termine. Both Beirut and Algiers, then, are wrecks to be written about, and in so doing reclaimed. And in the next part of the paper, I just want to look at two tropes that run through these two texts, and arguably act as navettes, as shuttles between them. First is figurations of liquid, particularly the sea or water, and then second in sensory configurations that always in some form of malfunction. Voices being silenced, deafness, invisibility. So the coast, and the sea in particular, forms an important feature in St. Marie-Rose. And indeed, the character of Marie-Rose herself, her pupils describe her as l'horizon sur la mer, the horizon on the sea. Her presence as a woman in breach of their patriarchal laws, as defiant in her knowledge of this, in front of her executioners, means that elle avance sur le train de l'imagination comme une océan déchaîné. The sea is beautiful for Marie-Rose, as it is the place where the blood of the vanquished on all the sectarian sides finally ends up together. Je veux dire à jamais que la mer est belle, et bien plus depuis que le son lac et la pluie avalent suivre dans cette mer des chemins rougeoyants. Et ce n'est qu'en elle, dans son bleu et mémorial, que celui des uns et des autres arrive enfin à se mêler. There is some sense of community, and the sectarian divides become reunited in the bloody remains which end up in the sea. Water in Les Femmes d'Alger encodes a form of rebellious potential for freedom. Breton est l'eau qui court, qui chante, qui se perd, elle qui libère, mais peu à peu en chacune de nous. The bain public, the public baths, are on certain days a feminist space carved out of the city in which the porteuse d'eau, who has a prominent passage in the narrative, is the catalyst. Ainsi, ma seule navigation fluide de triomphe, quand je circule, moi la femme, toutes les voix du passé me suivent en musique, chant heurté, cris cassés, mots en tout cas étrangers, voix multiples, tourne la ville à midi, métamorphosée. Gilbert sets up this contrast with the underlying trauma of the colonial war, where the porteuses de feu auraient dû libérer la ville, should have liberated the city, but instead, prison metaphor reappears here. Les filles barbelées ne barrent plus les ruelles, mais ils ornent les fenêtres, les balcons, toutes les issues de l'espace. Walsh is a symbol of the feminine and freedom as it offers escape beyond the threshold of the patriarchal urban landscape, the possibility of crossing the Mediterranean space, filling the interstices and making utterance possible. So in addition, and moving on now to the second thing that I want to think about, just the deafness and silencing. In addition to teaching the deaf and mute children, Marie Rose's deaf is a classical trope of silencing. I'm thinking of Nicole Laurent's façon tragique de tuer une femme, where by strangulation it's not just simply a case of murdering, it's a case of silencing the voice. And the two are deliberately placed side by side. De Monteux, Marie Rose, de l'ampoule électrique suspendue par une corde éteinte, les sourds-muets, leading in this case to a danse macabre in fulfillment of the sensory, affective and meaningless disarray of the city que l'on voit au nom d'une mise en nom est toujours une célébration. If you want it or not, should I just translate it? Death is in some ways always a celebration. C'est la danse des signes et la stabilisation de l'amour, c'est la montée en flèche du silence sans pardon, c'est l'éclatement de l'absolu noir parmi nous. Que faire dans cette conte fête sinon danser? What else is there to do but to dance? Les sourds muets se lèvent et soutenus par les cris transmis à la queue par la terre partelée à nouveau par le vent, ils se mettent à danser. So the children who are mute and deaf start to dance a rhythm that's encoded to them through the bombing and the noise of the bombardment of the city. The trope of deafness is taken up by Jane Barge. She muses upon the enforced invisibility of women and wants instead of a world where, au lieu d'être invisible, where instead of women being invisible, they will be rendues sourdes, be deaf. On n'écouterait plus personne, et ce serait un crime d'honneur au cas où une main tenterait de se faire entendre d'elle. The voice then, and being heard, forms the final trope to consider. If, insists Marie Rose, she is silenced by hanging, the struggle to find a voice and its expression is a preoccupation for Sarah and Van d'Algiers as she speaks with Leila about their experience in prison and in interrogations. Elle chercha en sourd-muette, so the deaf-mute figure appears again here, des mots d'amour, mots informels, en quelle langue trouver les mots comme des grottes ou des tourbillons de tendresse. On her time incarcerated, she recalls that she hurlait silencieusement. Les autres ne savaient que mon silence, people could only perceive her silence, and that she was une prisonnière muette, much as certain women in Algiers who stay, even if liberated from their veils, sont blottis dans d'autres voiles, invisibles ceux-là, bien perceptibles pourtant. In conclusion then, the project to write and reclaim the city forms the shared platform with which to read these two texts. As parallel trans-Mediterranean capitals, marked by traumas of decolonizing conflicts and civil war, both interestingly with a very different relationship to Metropolitan France. The desire to give voice to state and reinstate space underwrite these two projects. The abject destroyed Beirut of sensory disarray and the imprisoning narrow streets of Algiers both challenged their women to write and to write them. And it is these utterances born out of deep and lasting violence that an alternative trans-Mediterranean space is articulated.